Hi everyone, and welcome to stage 3 of the bat-tash, regrowth. Who would have thought? So today I'm going to do, because we've got, 22 days ago I dyed this to try and look like a bat-tash. Today what I'm going to do is I've got to re-dye it because we have our Movember barbecue tomorrow at Leisure Link from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock for those people who want to come along. But I thought I'd take this opportunity as I'm doing my re-dye with my trusty little Just a Men bottle, to have a bit of a chat to everyone and just give a bit of an update on some of the things that have happened. Because this Movember has been, I suppose, a bit of an eye-opener for me. And I know one of my other compatriots has said it's been a bit of an eye-opener. Someone said to me a little while ago, why do we do this? Why am I about to apply chemicals to my face? Why do we raise money? Why do we do, Danny Wood and I are doing some health talks around City Grade Geelong gyms and stuff like that to be able to raise some awareness about mental health and Movember and what we do. And they said, why do we do that? I said, well, I suppose if I was to take my Oxford Dictionary definition of why I do it, I think it's if we were to make an impact on one person's life, if we were to change the way that one person perceives it or gets them to have a conversation that could save someone's life, then it's all worth it. And I've said this, even if it's just one person, because you can't measure the dollar value or the time value or the worth of someone's life. So I want to tell you two little stories today. As I'm dying, sorry, I must keep going. Tell you two little stories today of people that we've talked to that have made an impact, whether it's an impact on me or whether it's an impact on someone we've made. Oh, right, there we go. So story number one, as I mentioned before, Daniel Wood and I are going around all the City Grade Geelong gyms at the moment, and we are, I think that's right, we are talking to stacks of people about mental health, and particularly around Movember, so some information about Movember, and then Daniel, who has done his mental health first aid course, then talks about how to create a conversation with someone. So if you think that there's someone struggling or someone that's not quite right, having a bad time, but how you can have a conversation with that person and hopefully spark a conversation that will make their life better. So, as part of one of those conversations, Daniel and I had the opportunity to sit down and chat to this lovely gentleman, no names mentioned, about his life and what had happened to him over his time. Unbeknownst to us before he walked in for the talk, this guy had mentioned during his conversation that his brother had taken his own life 30 years ago. And through attempt number one where he didn't quite get it right, unfortunately, but then through attempt number two where he was successful, and what happened in the meantime and the ripple effect it had on him and his family throughout that whole journey. His brother had an accident, wasn't quite able to go back into normal work due to disability, and then obviously he had a hard time, but had really struggled. Which is quite a hard life. He then said about he attempted to take his life the first time, wasn't successful. Second time was, but then obviously the effect on his family moving forward. And it's quite an open and honest conversation. And to his credit, 30 years ago there would have been a fair stigma around mental health, and going to a psychologist, would have been frowned upon because, the whole man up, suck it up, you'll be fine kind of attitude, that men are meant to have from that old school attitude. So when he was telling us about it, he told us about how he'd gone to a psychologist. He didn't care about it, he knew he had to get help for himself. He went to a psychologist, had those conversations and got his life sorted, and now he lives a normal life with his wife, and has been able to move on with it. I think I learnt more from that conversation about mental health than I have probably after doing a little bit of research myself, because there's a real life example of it. And it was amazing. Hang on, I've got to put my ink timer on. So that's just one example. The second example that I'm going to talk about today, while this is churning along, is I had a chat with a lady this morning who I know quite well. I've known as a member of our City and Grey Geelong gyms for quite some time. And as I was chatting to her, she was talking to me about Movember and how she thought it was great that we're doing what we're doing and talking to people and stuff. And the conversation got around to some of the stories that we'd heard through talks and through chatting with people. And I mentioned that even there's one friend of mine I know that whose father took their life when they were at quite an early age, and the impact that it had on them. And now, having gone and speaking to a lot of people, have now gone on to be able to live a normal life without as much impact on their life through the mental health side of that. And this lady promptly burst into tears on me, which I was a little taken back, having to choke back my own tears as I was talking to her. But then she just started talking about the fact that her father had taken her father had taken his life when this lady was only 16. And, through this conversation, we got chatting about it, and, I said, well, why, obviously, quite an impact on your life, and I understand it upsets you potentially talking about it. She goes, no, this is great. And the reason she said it was great was because this is the first time that everyone's ever actually spoken to me about it, where they could give me an example of someone who was in the same boat as me. And I'm not alone. And that was huge for her, that, she's normal. That there's people out there like her and she's not alone. And that's huge. That's why we do it. To be able to create conversations like that help people out. I think, if you were to ask me a couple of years ago why I do Movember, one, I was just doing it to raise funds, looked like a bit of an idiot for 30 days with some form of really bad moustache. But now looking at it, I think it's more about how we can make an impact on someone's life, how we can, leave someone in a better place. And hopefully that makes an impact. Hopefully. So, bat-tash stage number 3 plus a lecture. Hopefully the awareness that we raise through doing all this and the talks and the raising funds and all that sort of stuff, as I said, does make an impact and a positive impact on people's lives. But I suppose the challenge now, if you're listening to this, is to go and have that conversation yourself. Is there someone that's struggling? Is there someone that, isn't in a great place? Go and have a conversation with them. And it's not as Daniel talks about during his, mental health first aid stuff, it's not going up to them and go, are you okay? Because most people will just turn and go, yeah, I'm fine. When really they may not be. It's about finding a way of being able to have a chat with them or ask a question that might be, hey, I'm actually concerned because you're not yourself lately. Or I'm concerned because, you've been tired, or you've been quiet, or you've been acting slightly off. So something we need to talk about. And I suppose having that conversation, how to start that conversation, is the one big thing I've learned from Daniel over the last week, going and doing these talks. So go and have that conversation, because you too can have an impact on someone's life in a positive way. For those people that are potentially interested in learning a little bit of that, Daniel and I are giving a talk at Ballerine Aquatic and Recreation Centre on Thursday, this Thursday coming at 1 p.m. 5 minutes, so if you want to learn how to have that conversation, or if you know that there are someone in your life that potentially could be struggling with something and need some tools, please come along or come and have a chat with Daniel and myself. We're more than happy to sit down and have a chat to you that we can arm you with some questions or something that can actually help make an impact. I'm about to go and have my shower now, so check in hopefully again before the end of November with half mask day, which will be the last day of November, with half a moustache. In the meantime, if you've got any questions or anything, please feel free to direct message me, and yeah, thanks.